Thank you for joining us for our next session on tips and tricks for Business Central. This is always a very interesting session and always very much in demand. So I have the privilege of introducing our three presenters today, Leanne Virtus, Lonnie Holmes, and Dave Penny. With that, I would like to hand it over to Leanne Virtus on our team to go ahead and start our tips and tricks session.
Great, thanks, Angela. So I have the pleasure of going through the first 5 or 6 tips and tricks that we'd like to share with you today. First one being personalized. This is a very powerful option in Business Central that you don't see every day in other software products. It allows the user to personalize their experience, the screens that they work with, the transaction screens they work with, and you can simply tailor the system to how you want to work in Business Central. It's personalized to the user, so it doesn't impact the person sitting beside you. They can have a separate personalization experience if they need to. It allows you to remove fields from different screens. It allows you to bring fields onto screens that you need. You can reorder them, you can move them around to really make Business Central an easy experience for you to work within. And when I jump into Business Central in a few minutes, I'll show you how that works. The next one is the bookmarks. Sometimes we find pages in Business Central or screens in Business Central that we want to remember and be able to reference in future, and it's nice to be able to have them as a bookmark. This is simply a little toggle that exists every time you go to the tell me what you want to do page and you search up something. If you find a page that you don't want to have to constantly search for, you want to keep it as a bookmark. There is a little bookmark toggle here that you can actually turn on, and you can turn them off if you no longer need the bookmark, and these bookmarks will stay on your home page for easy and quick reference in the future. The next one is filters and saved lists and in your searches. So in Business Central, you have the option of doing a search. The search is always located in the little magnifying glass that's up in the top ribbon of your screen when you log into Business Central. And you can easily activate it by clicking on there, or a keyboard shortcut, Alt-Q, which is one of my favorites. I like using keyboard shortcuts when I can. When you do the tell me what to do, you can search what you're looking for. And then on the list view pages, you have the option of clicking a little filter icon up here in the right-hand corner, which will open up a filter option box over to the left-hand side. You can create filters based on different options that are available based on the page that you're working with, and you also have the option to save that filtered view for future reference. So if you always wanted to see sales orders greater than $0, for example, from a page, you would fill in the required filter options on the left-hand side, click Save As, and then the next time you come into this page, you'd be able to toggle between all, which would show everything without a filter, or you'd be able to click on your filtered view. And you can have as many filtered views as you would like. And if you no longer need the filtered view, you can simply come in here and delete them. The next one is duplicating your window screens. Not often do people realize that you can actually have more than one instance of Business Central open by simply duplicating the tab from your browser. You have an option to duplicate the tab, and you can even move the tab to a new window if you work with multiple monitors and you want to be able to see 2 screens at one time. Maybe you want to look at sales orders and customers at the same time, and instead of flipping between the 2 different tabs, you could have 2 different windows, or whichever makes sense for you. But it is a nice and easy option. These screens can be logged in with different options on those windows, allowing you better use of Business Central. The next one is the file attachment. The file attachment piece in Business Central I find is very good, and it's very helpful. From primary records, you can actually attach documents by coming into the customer record or the vendor record, for example. You'd be able to click on the attachment, add an attachment of either a PDF, a Word document, whatever the file is. You can grab the test file or the attachment file. You can attach it here. It'll actually date stamp it as to who attached it, what the date was. You can download these. You can delete them if you no longer need them. From the primary records, there is a little checkbox, which is which would say flow to the transaction. In this case, because this is coming from the customer card, it's saying flow to sales transactions. If this little box here is checked, it means that any attachments I put here on the customer record are now visible to me in transactions when I'm working with that customer, which is really helpful if you want to attach customer contracts or anything like that, and you want to have it accessible to you when you're actually transacting with that customer for reference. There's also a spot here for links. This is great for holding websites or information about the customer. And then there's a notes section down here. So you can create notes here again, which are date stamped and user ID stamped, to keep track of information about your customers or vendors or anything to do that with a transaction that you want to make note of in Business Central. Quick and easy reference. You don't need to store this information outside of Business Central. You can keep it all stored right here for easy reference. And the next little tip and trick that I like, which I find not often are people very aware of this one, but it is one of my favorite, is the built-in calculator function that sits in some of these fields. So for example, if I was entering a transaction here and I knew that I had to increase this by 2%, I can simply come in here and put in the value times 1.02 to inflate it by 2%, and it'll actually do the calculation for me right in the field. Where I find this is helpful is you don't need to now get out your calculator or an Excel spreadsheet or some other method to do the mathematical equation here. You can actually do it right in Business Central. That is one of the little tips and tricks that I find, a lot of people aren't aware of, and I do really think it's a nice, helpful one. Now with that, I'm going to actually open Business Central and just actually go through a few of these little tricks that I discussed with you guys. So the first one being the personalize. So just a reminder, personalize is up here in the little cogwheel at the top. And by clicking on personalize, it actually opens up the gray bar at the top. If you are actually looking at just moving or hiding fields on here, you can simply do that. But if you'd like to see what else is available on your screen, you can hit, and actually I'm going to just close this. I'm going to go to a different page here for a second. I'm going to go to the sales order screen. Sorry, the customer screen. If I click on this personalize here, and I click in the little plus field here at the top, it now opens up a little list of additional fields that could potentially be brought onto this page. If it says that it's placed, it means it's already sitting here on my screen. If it says ready, it's actually a field that's available to me to pull onto my screen. So for example, from this customer list, I may want to see what's the credit limit for these customers as I'm looking at the balance. I can simply left click and I can drag this field up in here into this section at the top. Not sure why that said that went wrong. We'll just refresh that screen. Just give me a second here. Okay, I'm just going to reopen that. And I'm going to try to drag that one more time. And now you can see the credit limit is now appearing on my page. If this is all the personalization I want to do, I can click done when I'm done. I can also come in here and click on the little red triangle. I can move or remove things. So if I don't want to see Responsibility Center, for example, I can click remove, and it removes it off my page and it tucks it back in the list here. If I decide I need to see it again, I can always come in and personalize and put it back. When you're done your personalization, you just click done, and now that credit limit field is now going to be in my permanent view here until I decide otherwise. So that's the nice thing about personalize. Here's the little bookmarks that I talked about earlier. If I wanted to have this bookmarked, it's turned on when this is highlighted green. If I want to turn this bookmark off, I can simply check it and it'll unbookmark that. Bookmarks would be sitting here in my home page. So these are all different various bookmarks that I have. Out of the box, Microsoft gives you a few bookmarks that are commonly used, but you can add things and tailor it to your experience that you need. Up here, you'll notice that I have the duplicate tabs, and it's simply by just duplicating the tab, I can create another tab of what was on my screen. If I want to actually navigate to something else, I can do that. I could be on a totally different screen here. This one's on purchase quote, this was on sales order, and this one here is on the home page. I can pop these screens out if I need to, so I can have separate windows. the attachment piece that we talked about earlier, for example, in the customers here, if I actually am clicking on the customer card, you'll see that there is the fact pane box that opens to the right here. This gives me access to those attachments. If I come in here and I click on there, this is where I can simply do that attachment. I can click and drag a file to put it on here, and I can click that little flow to sales transactions. Once I've done that, that will now be visible to me on sales orders or sales invoices as I transact with that customer. I can also see the attachments from this list view here as well. So I can look to see what attachments are here. In this case, it's just a note for about today's demo. And I can click through customers and I can see if there's any attachments or anything that's available here for me to view. The last thing that I will just do quickly here is I'll just pull up a sales invoice, for example. I'll click in here, create a new transaction. And for example, maybe I'm going to sell this item here. And if I want to actually change the price, maybe I want to just quickly, I don't have the price stored in my system. For this particular one, I actually want to increase it. So I'll take this and go 2%. It actually creates the math for me right here in the cell. This will save you a lot of time instead of pulling out your calculator to do the math. And I think that's it for me. I'm going to turn things over to my colleague, Lonnie, and she's going to take you through some of her favorite tips and tricks of Business Central.
Thank you, Leanne. I am just going to share my screen with everybody here. And we'll make sure everybody can see my screen. All right. So hopefully you're seeing my slides. So I'm going to talk about my 5 favorite features in Business Central. The first one is using Excel within Business Central. So it's funny because in a lot of times when we assess most clients and how they're using their ERP or not using their ERP, we tell them, why are you using Excel for everything? So I think we got tired of that. We said, well, if we can't beat them, join them. So Microsoft's added some great features as far as Excel goes that will allow you to utilize Excel in its entirety from a very powerful perspective to get, mass amounts of data into the system through what they call edit in Excel. It also allows you to extract all your data to Excel in an Excel-based format for almost, I'm going to say like 90% of what happens in Business Central can be exported to Excel. In addition to that, there's some other cool features that you can use to copy and paste data into general journals, into purchase journals, and all sorts of other journals. So if you're once a GP user, you know that GP used to allow you to copy and paste into just a journal entry window. Well, Business Central has expanded on that functionality, and now you can copy and paste to a whole bunch of different journal windows. So really giving you an advantageous option around Excel. And I'm going to show you a little bit of that very shortly when we pop into the software. Combining primary records. So as we all know, these things happen. Companies change names, we have vendors or customers, or we don't properly search to see if a customer or vendor exists, and we inadvertently create duplicates. So then we get stuck with a whole bunch of history information that we don't need for 2 completely separate people, which are in fact the same. So whenever we're looking to understand what's happened with that customer or vendor, we have to sort of go through multiple vendor records. Well, good news is within Business Central, there is a simple option to merge duplicates together. And I'm going to show you that function as well in a moment. A really quick little snippet. I know a lot of people find that the one thing with Business Central that can be a bit tedious is the scrolling that you do between your header information and your line information. I know we can collapse our views a little bit in Business Central, but another thing that's added at the line level is this focus view mode, which if you click it, actually collapses the header level entirely and almost focuses your line level view right in your face. So I'm going to show you that quickly as well. And last, well, not last actually, the deferral codes are one of the features that a lot of people have asked about. Does it have a deferral module for prepaid expenses or deferred revenue? And the answer is yes, it does. It actually has a very simplistic deferral module that's actually shared between the various different functions in the system. So you can create different deferral codes based on your own scheduling or parameters. So they could be straight line over 12 months, 3 months, 6 months. It could be ad hoc in that you're registering for an event and you have to pay for the hotel in advance. You can then schedule that to be recognized as an expense in the month of the event and do an ad hoc placement on that. So lots of flexibility around that, and that works for general journals, purchase invoices, sales invoices for revenue. So again, lots of flexibility there. And of course, last but not least, is Business Central is fully automated in a mobile app. This is not just using this on a web browser on your phone or tablet. It is a fully functional, downloadable app from your app store. It can be used with Apple or Android operating systems and mimics your exact setup that you see in your desktop version. Obviously scalable, so we need to be able to search for things a little bit differently in your mobile app. But this is amazing, guys, for executives who are always on the go, people who are participating in the approval process that are not always available to a laptop or a desktop to complete things, no longer have to be the bottleneck in your approval automation process. They can take Business Central with them anywhere they go. Whether that makes them happy or not, I don't know, but it certainly will make finance happy when they're not listening to the excuses about why things aren't being done. All right, so let's show you what some of these look like in Business Central. So first and foremost, the edit in Excel and Excel functionality. So I'm going to actually pop into a general journal. This is kind of the most common area we see people utilize these features. And I'm going to pop open here a little Excel spreadsheet. So I created sort of a basic payroll entry, which would probably be very similar for a lot of people. They would have a report that maybe gets downloaded from ADP or one of their payroll providers. And they want to be able to get this entry easily in to Business Central for posting. So I've created an Excel template here that mimics the column structure of my Business Central batch. So I'm going to just simply highlight this data and I'm going to go Control-C. And then I'm going to pop back over to Business Central. I'm going to open my batch and I'm going to let that open and I'm going to go Control-V. And it's going to think about it and there it is. They're like, did you do that correctly? So here's my entry. Now, what you'll notice is that the system doesn't have a document number, and that is because in my file, I don't have one here. The reason for that is I don't know what the document number is. I don't know what the next number in sequence for my general journals will be. So I don't put one in here. But what the system does have is a function that allows you to create or renumber your document numbers, which means I'm going to look to the table, see what the next number is in sequence, and then I'm going to populate that in here for you. So now I have a fully completed journal entry that I copied and pasted from Excel with the next journal entry number that I can now post. Okay, so let's take that a step further. I know that in most cases, people have very detailed payroll structures. It's departmentally broken down, and there's all sorts of things there. And maybe, you know, this Excel copy paste isn't the most practical because we can't necessarily get our payroll in the format we want it in to copy and paste. So edit in Excel is your next best option. So what is edit in Excel? Edit in Excel is a functionality that allows you to create data in an Excel-based template and then directly publish it back to Business Central. So rather than copying and pasting from Excel file into Business Central directly or into another spreadsheet, okay, what you can do is actually populate the data in here. Now, there is some copying and pasting still because if you have specific reports that are coming from different sources, you're still going to need to get the data from those reports into this Excel file. So let me put in my password. Oops. And I'm going to show you what this is going to do. Security, security, security. All right, so what this is going to look to Business Central, it's going to retrieve the data that's sitting in that batch that I just ran out of Excel from, and it's going to populate that entry in here. Okay, now if I had more entries that I wanted to populate in here, because I have a report, I'm going to just copy some of this data down. So I'm going to do this, I'm going to copy all this, and I'm just going to copy my entry, okay, just as it is. So you can see how this will work. But essentially, you'll notice which fields I've populated in the system and what fields were sort of populated automatically in the system because there are different fields available in the table. This is because the system drops all of your fields into Edit and Excel that could be utilized. You don't have to populate them all. Some of them are system generated. So you can see I'm skipping a lot of them because they're not relevant to my entry. And I'm only populating those fields that I actually populated in the journal entry when I did it. So now I've created my entry. I've just sort of duplicated this just to show you the exercise. And now I'm going to hit this publish button over here on the right. So you can see it's added some line numbers for me. So now it knows I have more more entries in my journal entry. And I'm going to just go ahead and pop out of here just to refresh my screen. And la-da-da, there we go. So there is now my entry. Okay, so we all know Excel is an incredibly powerful tool and can do a lot of things for you. And this is another way that you can utilize some of that functionality that exists within Excel to make importing or getting data in mass from one place to another without rekeying everything manually, which we all know can be, you know, a little bit more subject to error. There's a higher margin for error on those things. So that is Excel. You can also dump data out of the system into Excel. And that can be done almost anywhere in Business Central, including reports can be exported to Excel. If you want to look at them in an Excel-based format, using that little share arrow, you'll see open in Excel, and it will drop it into Excel in exactly this same table format. So that is Excel. All right, so next feature I want to talk about is our merge records. So I know this happens regularly. I talked a little bit about this initially in that, what if we created two vendors or two customers that are actually the same inadvertently? So I'm going to just show you here. I have now a CR group vendor in here, and I also have a Quisitive vendor in here. And that's because maybe the person who created the Quisitive vendor didn't know Quisitive used to be CR group. So now we want to combine those because we actually only want one vendor for Quisitive. So I'm actually going to click into the Quisitive vendor, and it's going to bring in my vendor card, my vendor record. And I'm going to go up to process, and you're going to see under process this merge with function. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to open up another window for me that says, hey, you know, when you're merging these two, here's the current one. So this is what we're going to merge it to. What do you want to merge with it? So I can go into my vendor list and I can find that CR group vendor, and I can select that. And what it's doing at this point now, it takes a second because it's going to look into all the tables where that particular vendor has been used and all the historical data that's associated to it and pull that all together. And it's going to fill in some fields at the bottom here for me in which it's going to say, well, which one do you want to overwrite with? Do you want to just use everything that's in the new vendor up at the top? Or do we want to overwrite anything in here to be with the old vendor? Okay, I'm not going to overwrite anything. I'm going to leave it just as it is because odds are most of the information is identical anyways. The only thing that's different are the IDs and the name. So I'm going to click merge. And it's going to say, hey, just so you know, we can't undo this when it's done. So I'm going to click yes, and it's going to go through the process of merging my two vendors together so that when it's done, it's going to give me a message that says, hey, you've merged two records. If I go back to my vendor list, you're going to notice my CR group vendor is gone. So here's my Quisitive vendor, and look at it. Once had a balance of 0. It now holds the balance that was in our CR group vendor, which is now gone. Okay, so very quick and easy function to use. So don't worry if you inadvertently create any duplicate customer vendor records, we can fix it. All right, So the next thing I want to talk about are deferred, profiles, and the focus mode. I'm actually going to cover these two topics in one sort of pass. So I'm going to go into my purchase invoices over here, and I'm going to find a purchase invoice in here that I was working with. So this one right here. So this purchase invoice is for some annual professional dues that we have to pay. And I've put in here, now you'll see I'm doing all this scrolling. So if I wanted to eliminate that, there is this little focus view mode button over here. I'm going to click on that. And look at how it just collapses everything. It focuses on the lines. It takes the scroll bar away over from the right and allows us to really focus on the line level. So really simple little touch. And if I want to get rid of that, I can just click it again. It'll bring me back to my original view. But let's talk about deferral codes while we're here. So I have this deferral code. I'm using my union dues of $1,200, and this is an annual subscription. This is an annual cost that I need to defer the expense over 12 months. So I've got a deferral code already created in here, and you can create as many with the different parameters and specifics and templates that you want. I'm going to select this one. And when I click on the little ellipse beside it, it's going to show the parameters that it's using. So, hey, I've got an amount to defer. The method we're using is straight line over 12 months, and it's using the posting date as the driver for the start date for my deferral. So I can change this. If I'm getting invoiced in advance of when the subscription actually takes place, because they probably want to get paid before my subscription starts, I could actually change this. So right now this is starting in August. Maybe I'm being billed a couple months in advance, and this doesn't actually start until October. So I can change that, and I can recalculate my schedule, and now it's taking $100 over 12 months starting October 22nd. Okay, so now I can close this. Now here's what the system does when we're doing deferrals. Okay, I'm going to go back out here because I want my menu up here at the top, and I'm going to show you my preview posting. So here's what the system does. You will see now I have 29 GL entries, GL lines, I should say. And why is that? Well, because initially when I started, I was putting this into a 63,200 expense account. But the system says, no, you're deferring this. So we're going to take it out of 63,200 and we're going to put it into your prepaid expenses account. And then every month from October onward, we are going to take out $100 out of that prepaid and put it back into your 63,200 account. Okay, and then the last lines at the bottom are my taxes and of course my AP account, so that I can pay the vendor when the time comes. Okay, quick, easy, very simple, guys, and obviously takes any guesswork out of it. There's also reports available in the system that you can track your deferral schedules and understand where things are with any of your prepaid expenses or deferred revenue. Okay, last but not least, I want to show you a little bit of the mobile app. So I'm going to just turn my screen mirroring on here. Hopefully this will work. Sometimes it's finicky, but oh, there, look at that. Okay, so here it is. Can you believe it? Here I am. I am in the mobile app for Business Central. I can see all the tiles that were on my home page earlier that you would have seen when Leanne was navigating as well. Okay, and I can go in here and I can click on my menu. So I'm going to click on my menu and I can see, oh, look at, I've got some customers. I want to go check out my customers. So I'm going to click on customers and look at, it's going to give me my list of customers. I can go back. Maybe I want to see some KPIs. So maybe there's some Power BI reports in here or some visuals that I want to be able to navigate through. So I can just navigate by scrolling. I can do some menus and say, well, I want to select which chart I want to look at. I want to look at my aged AP right now. So I'm going to bring that up, and everything's really old because the data in these demo environments are not the most stellar. So really powerful. Now, where I see there being a real benefit to this is, if you're looking at my user tasks at the bottom, if I was, or even my approvals, actually, this is a better one. If I was somebody who was part of an automated workflow and needed to do approvals, I would see in here requests to approve with a number in it. And I could click on that tile and see a list of approvals that require my attention. I can still drill into the transactions in the app, look at the information. If there's attachments, I can look at those attachments, particularly if they're in a PDF format that's easy to be viewed on your mobile. But just knowing that I have the ability to take a look at those and manage my workflows on the fly. So those are my 5 favorite tips and tricks with Business Central. I hope you found that useful. I am now going to turn this over to my colleague, Dave Penny, who's going to talk about his tips and tricks and sort of round out our presentation today. So over to you, Dave.
Thank you very much, Lonnie. Just get my screen shared here. Okay, so you should be seeing my screen now. So basically, one of the favorites that I've got here is favorite accounts. So Business Central allows you to see specific account balances or totaling accounts at a glance. And on your role center, if you scroll down through the role center there, you'll see a window called favorite accounts. And that's going to allow you to highlight the accounts that you want to see and drill into them. Current balances are displayed as of the work date that is in your system. This is one of those that, to me, I think is a little bit overlooked because a lot of people will navigate to the chart of accounts to take a look at all the accounts. But I mean, you know, a lot of us have got, you know, could be a couple hundred accounts there, so you're doing a lot of scrolling. So we were just go quickly here into Business Central, you'll see on my dashboard, if I just scroll down here, here's my favorite accounts. And again, we can just quickly come in here and we can do a manage list, and I can come in and add whatever account I want. It can be a totaling account, it can be a posting account. We can add like a cash and deposits total. And basically, I'll just hit F5 here and it'll resort, and I'll have all my accounts. So instead of going to my chart of accounts and looking at 200 different accounts and saying, okay, where's my cash, where's my payables, where's my receivables, how's my revenue doing, I can have some very key metrics right here that I can look at. And immediately, if I want to see, you know, total of the cash and deposits, again, same as chart of accounts, I can click on it and drill into it and drill back to the original transaction and so on. So I've got everything right here at my fingertips. And you can also open it up in Excel. I could say open on that particular one, and it's going to take me into the GL account, card, and so on. So a lot of drill down functionality here on this particular one. So when we go into the next one here I've got is schedule reports. So again, there's a number of reports that people are going to be running in the system. You can schedule a single or a single report, or you can schedule to a recurring report to run at a specific date and time. You can choose the schedule option after selecting send to and then enter information such as the printer and a date and time. If you choose to save the report to a file, the processed report is sent to the report inbox page on your role center. Scheduled reports can be managed from the job queue entries page, and also they can be shared with other users. So if we were to just quickly go back into Business Central here, just take let's say that I'm going to run my accounts payable aging report. So I've got aged accounts payable, and this could be like daily, weekly, or whatever. Down here, so on most reports, what I find is there's some reports that this scheduling option is not available, but most reports do have this option. When you go down here, you click on send to, and you're going to get your usual list of, do I want to do it to PDF, Excel, Word. Down here, you've got the option to schedule. So if you click schedule and say okay, it's going to open up the scheduling window that you can set. So again, you can define what is going to be your output format. I've got it set to PDF here. You can do a next run date formula. So this could be a one-time shot, or I could set this, you know, to run weekly. So Microsoft uses D for day, W for week. If you wanted it to run monthly, just doing, you know, 1M, you do 2 M's for every second month. You could use Q for quarter, Y for year. So all those standard date formative functions will work here. It'll tell you what your earliest start time is, and you can set this. And then you can also set an expiration date. as well. So you can have it run daily or monthly, you know, just for this year, and then end at that year. Once you say okay, it's going to get scheduled and it's going to run. Once it's run, you'll see it down here in your report inbox. It'll show up here. I can click on it and it'll automatically download the file. I can open up the file. You also have some other options here too, is I can share the file, I can download it, I can look at just my unread reports, you can open it up in OneDrive and so on, you can open it up in Excel. So lots of functionality here, so it'll just be sitting here in your inbox, waiting for you. Where this definitely could come into play here is if you've got a number of reports at month end or quarter end that are time sensitive, that almost have to be like a snapshot, then you might want to schedule these to run right at the end of the month so that they automatically happen, and you don't have to have somebody sitting there on that day with a note and reminder saying, hey, don't forget to run this report or we're not going to get it. So you've got that option as well. Okay, so next one I want to quickly look at here is standard journals. So again, another one that's a little bit overlooked here is that we get a lot of requests from clients that basically we've got, you know, journal entries that we're constantly doing every month. So like Lonnie was just showing the payroll entry as an example, that we're always putting it in there, the amounts might change and so on. You can set up what's called standard journals for the general journals. And that will, when you do that, you'll save the journals, you can retrieve journals, you can save journals where basically they've already got the amounts in them and you can modify them, or you can just save it with the accounts and you're gonna have to enter the amounts. So when we go into the system, we can take a quick look here at, if I was to come into my general journals, and just open up a journal here. When you come in under process, there's an option here for get standard journals. So you can save as many journals as you want. I've got one here set up for accrued liabilities. So if I just click on that one here and say okay, automatically it has pulled in the entries related to this journal along with the amounts. At this point in time, I'm free to change amounts, add lines, do whatever I want. It's an unposted journal, so I can make any changes. Likewise, if I had just created this particular entry, and this is something I know I'm going to be using in the future, you can come in here and you can come under actions and you go to functions and you can say save as standard journal. So when you do that, it's going to open up, it's going to ask you for a code, and I can just say demo entry, and I have an option here to save amount. So do I want to save the dollars, the debits and credits with this or not? And if I say yes, then the 5,000, 3,000, 2,000 will get saved. If not, it'll just get saved without that. I'll just say okay, and it's been saved. So if I was to come in here and, oops, sorry, page, new document number here, and come into process, get standard journals, you're going to see that that's now sitting here. And if I was to pull that one in here, it's going to come in, and you'll notice this time it came in with no amounts. Okay, so that's one way that you can save these and pull these in when you need them. All right, so next one here that I've got is rename master records. So basically, one of the nice little features that Business Central has here is that allows you to change the master record. So if you've got a GL account number and you want to change the GL account number from 1050 to 1055, or if you want to change a customer number or a vendor number or an item number as an example, you can just easily go into the particular master record, and where the number or the code value is, that unique number code value, you just go in there and you can just type in a new one. When you do that, it's going to pop up a warning message, and it says your change might update related records, which can take a while. Do you want to continue? So be very careful with this one, because depending on the amount of data that you have, this could take a little while to run. Sometimes it's a few seconds or a couple of minutes, but again, if you're doing a GL account that's, you've had GL history for a number of years, or an inventory item, this could run for quite a while, and as it runs, it's going to lock those records, and another users are going to be sitting there with a locked record message on their screen and not able to process. So be very careful in doing that. One thing that I would say that that we do notice a lot is that sometimes users will go into these records and accidentally change the value, and they'll get the pop-up message and they don't read the pop-up message and they just say yes and they go ahead. And next thing you know, we get a call saying, hey, my warehouse just disappeared, or this item is no longer there, my GL account, someone deleted my GL account. And no, we go looking and we find out, no, somebody renamed it, okay? So be very careful.
Sorry, Dave, just a quick time check. There's
Sure.
5 minutes remaining.
All right, thanks, Angela. Okay, all right. So let's move on here. So let's move on to the last one here is the Office integration. Sorry, there's standard journals. Sorry, we did that one. Let's look at the Outlook integration here. So this is a big one here that I really like, and it's really overlooked. So within Business Central, there's an add-in for Outlook, and you can see the financial data and create documents such as quotes, orders, invoices directly from the email that you get. So given time here, let me just open up my Outlook here. And so basically I've received an email here just from this guy called BC User, and it just says, look, hey, sales team, I'd like to order 1 office fridge, can you confirm any orders placed? So I'm straight in my Outlook. I'm not logged into Business Central or anything like that. I come in here, there's an icon, there'll be an icon added to your screen for Business Central, and it's Contact Insights. When I click on the Contact Insights, it's actually going to look at the email address, and it's going to go through the system here, and it's going to find all the contacts that basically match that email address, and I'll ask you to select which one. So here I've got a customer, DP Retail Company. So this is pulling data directly from Business Central. You can look at it. I can see attachments. I can see the details, accounts receivable, statistics. Oh, I've got 7 open sales orders. Here's some 23 invoices posted, and so on. Here's some statistics and notes and so on. Now, one of the things is, so it's nice that right here, right from my Outlook, that I can see any information I want related to this particular customer, but I can also come in here and I can initiate a sales quote or a sales order. So if I said, let's create a sales order, the system's going to read the email and it's going to say, okay, look, we got some suggested lines here. I think this is what you're looking to order. It could, this could be a long list or not. It may not find anything at all, but it says, we think we found something here. And all I got to do is I say, yeah, we'll tick that, and I'll say, okay. And immediately it's going to create my sales order. So now it's created sales order 10/11/20. Okay, and here's my customer information and the header and screen and so on. Here's the lines, tax. So all the fields that you would normally see in a sales order. I have the option here is I can open that up into a new window. So just sort of pop it out here, so that, again, it's a lot easier to read than the other one. And I can go and I can finish off doing whatever I need to do. And at that point in time, then I can email it, release it, do whatever, move on to the next email. But again, I have not left Outlook. I have stayed within Outlook, and I'm working directly from Outlook, but Outlook is talking to Business Central. So again, this will work on the vendors, it'll work on the customers, anything with an email address. Very, very nice feature. So at that point in time, then I guess I'll hand it back to Angela there, and we'll open it up for some questions. And yeah.
Thank you very much, Dave, Lonnie, and Leanne, for those great tips and tricks. We have a bunch of questions. We'll take 1 or 2 just given the time limitations. So one of the questions is, if you merge records, can you still search on the old vendor?
Great questions. So no, that vendor is now basically gone. It's taken all the records that existed with the old vendor number or customer number and linked them to the new one. So every record that was associated to the old one will be associated now to the new vendor record. So that number now disappears.
Thank you very much. Next question is, can you make date-based deferrals? I recognize 100% on May 30th, 2023.
Yeah, so as I mentioned in the presentation that if you know when the deferral is going to happen, whether it's happening one time in 6 months or over the course of 12 months, you can either set up scheduled deferrals or you can set up ad hoc deferrals where you go in, create the template on the fly and say, my start date is going to be, you know, October, and it's only for that 1 month. I'm not doing it over 12 months.
Thank you very much. The next question, can you use more than one prepaid account when entering invoices?
Yeah, so you can have different deferral codes, and those deferral codes are where you specify which prepaid account you want to use. So if you have, say, a prepaid rent account, then you may have a deferral code that is for, you know, PPD/rent, and you know that that's the rent prepaid account that's used. And then you may have a general prepaid account, which you create a different deferral code for.
Thank you so much. And then just a great suggestion from Kathy asking, when is Business Central going to add an undo typing button? That would be a great feature. So we are at time right now, and I do want to thank all of our attendees. I really hope you found this session useful and got some great tips and tricks. And a very big thank you to all of our presenters for this session. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us.